what is the basic cost? Like what needs to exist for roaches to be in the apartment? And to be fair to some tenants, they could be coming from, another unit, right? Like doesn't necessarily mean it's that tenant directly, but what is usually the root cause?
Sanitation deficiencies, sanitation. And honestly, that's what it is for, rodents sometimes too, like improper garbage disposal. Like if you've got tenants who are leaving their garbage bags up on the third floor on the back deck because they're too lazy to take it down to the dumpster, and then all of a sudden they've got rat holes chewed through it. I mean, that's a magnet for all kinds of pests. So again, like for property managers, just instilling that tight communication with, this is what we need to do. This is, especially if a landlord knows the history of a building. Like say it's an older building and the building is right near like a river or a water source. That
Or
building is going to
Wrigley?
be more, yeah, or any construction or demolition. In fact, like that, it's more susceptible to the American cockroaches, which are the giant ones that are your sewer dwellers. It'll be more susceptible to rats because rats tend to live along waterways as well. So really just being aware of the conducive conditions and what you can do on an exterior level to ward them off is really the key. With roaches, a lot of times people, if you have a new tenant moving in, they'll bring it from another location. It's it's one of those things that will spread really quickly. Same thing as bed bugs too. If you've got tenants who happen to be dumpster divers and they're bringing furniture from dumpsters up through hallways, that's a great way to get bed bugs, and it's a nightmare for any landlord. But there are things that my company can do for you. I mean, if this is what sets us apart from our competition too. We have a staff entomologist who he's a Navy veteran, amazing person. He's a 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀ologist. Look that one up, and I'll tell you what he's a mosquito expert. He studies mosquitoes on like an unnatural expert level. So, but he's a public health expert too. And one of the things that we offer to our customers, especially if they're realtors, if they're property managers, if they're restaurateurs, we will come and speak on your behalf to your staff or your tenants to communicate the importance of sanitation to prevent pests. And we'll just give like a 101 level of signs of different things to look for. So education is how we move forward with being diligent with, people reporting accurately and having better communication. But that's just something we offer complimentary because we believe education is the first defense against any public health threat.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, so let's say you have a tenant, they have roaches. What's the procedure to minimize, eliminate the spreading, get them out of the building? Like, you're called. What do you come out to the building? What are like
Mhm.
the actual steps? Like, what's the behind the
Yeah.
scenes here?
So
How do you make
first
the
of
problem go
all,
away?
yeah, so a lot of it is inspecting and monitoring. And we use these I have one here. We use glue boards. I'm sure you've seen them, the sticky traps, to monitor activity and where it's coming from, which can help us figure out the direction of these pests' travel paths. So if we're dealing with roaches, and your tenant is reporting them in the kitchen, very commonplace, right? Think about what's under the sink. Is there a hole where that pipe goes through to the other tenant's unit? Because that could be the highway. These are all things that we inspect. We look for the travel patterns. How large is the insect? Because that'll tell us, is it a new brood? Do we have baby cockroaches? Is it an active situation, or are they bigger? And could this just have been like a one-off sighting? So an inspection will tell us a lot from the get-go of what we're dealing with. But part of our service is we don't just like come in and figure it out by ourselves. No, we work with the tenant, we work with the landlord to say, okay, here's what we found, this is what we think is happening. We're going to come back in 2 weeks and check again to confirm our hypothesis here. It's all very scientific. And we go through the measures with you guys to say, okay, to prevent this from happening again, keep the dishes out of the sink, make sure your floors are clean, don't leave pizza boxes open on the stove, that kind of stuff. We go through all of those best practices so that we can educate the tenant on what to do, because they might not know. They might not know. And, we're fair about that. Education is for everyone. So, again, it's just really like communication. It's the number one thing.